Today we are talking about, let's see, we covered common programming concepts, variables, data types, function, understanding ownership, using struct to structure related data, defining structs. So we are in structs. Structs is just a way to store the data. In other programming languages, if you have ever interacted with a struct or something like a data type, it's like, can I explain to it? When you see a car always has a seat, engine, the wheels, the boot and the bonnet, and the maybe what oil, for example, or electricity if it uses electricity. So struct is something that globally defines the requirements of every single car so that the consumers can choose what they want, for example. So using structs to structure related data. A struct is a short form of a structure. I've never known about this. A struct or a structure is a custom data type that lets you package together and name multiple related values that, okay. So in short, it's just a structure. If you're familiar with an object-oriented language, for example, like C, if you've ever programmed using C, you can understand. Even Rust is a system programming language, meaning that it's a object, and I think it's neither. It's an object and an object. It's a system programming language. So this is how we define and instantiate struct. Struct is also called structure. So structs are similar to tuples discussed in the tuple type. I think we've not covered tuples. In that both hold multiple related values. Like tuples, the piece of a struct is different. Unlike with tuples, in a struct you name each piece of data so it's clear what the value means. Adding these names means that structs are more flexible than tuples. You don't have to rely on the order of the data space for access the values. For instance, to define a struct, we enter the keyword struct. So it's like you say structure, the name of the structure, and then the brackets, and then what it contains, active. So this is get username, email, and sign in. Getting interesting. After I don't need this code because we're in day 7, we're talking about structs. And here I'm going to need a file for structures. So I'll call it structures.rs. Inside the structures file, we have to create a function to define structs. So is it possible to store structs in a different file? For example, in Angular, you can create and in Angular or TypeScript, a struct is similar to interface. You create it in separate folder. But this one, we're going to say we want a struct to take the username. So we can create a function, we call it take username. And this function, we want to take the username of a person. So we want to take username. Let's say we return a string, and here we say names of type string, which we say return just the name. Okay, this function just takes the username, and we create another function that takes the email address. Record user. We're going to create a function called record user. And this function takes the first name, which is a string, the al name, which is a string also, into also age, which is a U32. We take first name, last name, age, gender, which is a string. What else is needed in school? Any medical conditions, which is a boolean data type. Sorry, I think this one is enough. Then here you want to record the user. You want to store it in a single variable called let user is equals to. Okay, I'm going to comment it first, but first let's create a struct. So we say struct, short form for structure, user will have the following data. So here you initialize let student, which is of data type, let student will be user, and then we store all the things here. There are two ways of storing the things here. You can say use is equals to fname. You can initialize explicitly by saying fname. Then lname, you can do that like that. Yeah, like that. Then if you print line user is going to print everything, and we have to register this. But before register, I'm going to allow unused variables. The same case with struct. I think that's good, that's important. And here we're going to call day 7 in a function called structures. Passing through, and these structures. So let's go to mod. We have to initialize it public module structures. Then we save it. The error has to go. Can't find structures. Why? But initialize it. Let's just call module structures. I think it's private, so I did it correctly. Is that I couldn't find the error quite easily. But in our server, there's cargo watch. We execute and then we run. So it's a user John Doe is 30 years old. So all the data that we've passed here, they have been registered by the struct. So a struct is just a short form of structure, and we are using it to explicitly define the type of data value and what is expected. It's usually a good way. I think we've talked more about structs. You can say string. This is how you create an instance. You say let user2. You can say of a data type. There's something I want to try. You can do this in this function record user. You can say this let student, which is of data student, and then you call this struct and fill all the names, and you explicitly define this data type. I don't want to explain further because that's not the main point. And that's all about structs. In structs, you can ownership of struct data. This seems like a note. In the user struct definition listing 5:1, we used owned string type rather than the pointer to string. This is a deliberate choice because we want each instance of the struct to own all of its data, for that data to be valid as long as the entire struct is valid. It's possible for struct to store reference of data owned by, but to do so we require to use lifetimes, a Rust feature that we'll discuss in chapter 10. Okay, I don't know about lifetimes. We're going to discuss it chapter 10 according to the author of this book. The next thing about structs is, I don't think there's the next thing about structs. Methods. Methods are similar to functions. I remember functions, public function, this, and this. So public is the keyword and the function is the function keyword. We declare them with the fn keyword and a name. They can have parameters and return a value, and they contain some code that runs when the method is called from somewhere else. Unlike functions, methods are defined within the context of a struct or an enumerator. I'm going to talk about enumerator in the future, which we'll cover in chapters, just like I said. And the first parameter is always self, which represents the instance of the struct method being called on. So for example, we create a struct called rectangle, which has the width and the height, and it's an unsigned variable. We don't expect the width and the height to have negative values. And the method is showed by this implement rectangle. So every struct that has this will have this function automatically. Now this is interesting. So we'll create here. Now, this is just a commit message. It's used to keep track of your progress. So like here I can say struct. No, I can say struct initialization. Then you add this plus to stage everything. Then you commit the staged ones, and then you synchronize it to GitHub. And for this, we'll create a new file. We call it methods.rs. And methods are different. Methods are different from structs, from functions. For functions, we use fn keyword. But for this, you can go with the example for the triangle. So you can say rectangle. Struct, you can say rectangle, which will hold the width, which is a U32 data type, and the length, which is a U32 data type. If you can remember, if you want this hashtag derived debug is when you want to print the entire struct, you must use this hashtag derived debug. I don't know why. I don't know its meaning. We can search here. What does hashtag derive debug mean and do in Rust? Then there's a good AI here. I think it's for Google. In Rust, the hashtag derived debug is an attribute that tells the compiler to generate a default implementation of the debug trait using data types. By default, Rust does not allow you to print a custom or these are modified created structs or any into the console. Applying this attribute tells the compiler to generate a code needed to format your type into a programmer-facing readable string. And how to use it? You just use it like this, and then it allows you to print. We can try in our own example. You say hashtag allow derive debug. So this basically means that Rust to convert our type to a form that can be used or is readable or as a string. So I want to go back here. This is how you print a derived debug. Use 2: and a question mark. And this is a standard debug format for using this. And this is a pretty printed format using, you add a hashtag just a minute. I've never tried this one, but I always use this one. So you can try it. Anyway, back to our methods. We cover implement, and then you say rectangle, our struct, then you create the area, and then you run the U32. So this basically means that every instances of this will have this function by automatically. Now these are the methods. No, it's capital D. Didn't know about that. So create a function called calculate area. In this function, we want it to take the width, which is a U32, and the length, which is a U32. And from what we have learned, let rectangle 1 will be rectangle, and then we pass in the width and then the length, and we cover it. So there's not supposed to be any error, and you can also specialize that this is our custom data type. And once we have this, we want to create an area, so we can say print line, that, which is good. So we in the future we might also not need these functions, and we don't want you to create a lot of warning. So we say hashtag allow dead code. Then you save it. We want to import this function to our main file. So we come to our main file. Maybe we can keep this one for the meantime. We say day 7. Then structures. No, I haven't initialized the methods.rs in our mod. So we say public mod methods. You save this file, and now when I call it, it should be available. There is 7 methods, and then we call our function, and we call it, and I expect it to be visible here. Now there's one error: could not compile hello world due to 2 previous warnings. The length, there is no variable called length. So this is a typing error. This is a typing error, sorry. That's the advantage of having AI nowadays. It can write all the length for you, and it's supposed to be done this error. Still it's not there. There's a column this which is needed. It said 2. The area of a rectangle is 50 after I passed in 5 and 10. So that's basically methods, implementing methods. So we've talked about the methods. I don't think there's anything. This is the output format. Before we go on from there, in this function calculate area, we want the output to be nothing. We can return the U32. We can say the data to be returned is a U32. Now this is the output. So we can come here and then we return rectangle 1.area. We call our method. Then we save. So this function will be returned, and here we say area is equals to that one, which is the light area. That's the advantage of the AI again. So we can say print line area just like above is just like above. We can save this file, and because it's Rust, it's very strict with the output. 50 is the same thing. This is the output. But what is this? There's this method they call direct1.canHold. There's another thing else that I want us to test before we finish it. Is this methods. We want to extend this rectangle. I don't know if I can create another function. Can say if you've done with PyTorch in artificial intelligence development, there's something they call, can't remember this function, but when you're building a model, you have to understand the every function of every structure, and it says the script. Let me call it descriptive, and this function takes only pointer to self, and I want this function to return a string, and the string that this function says is that self, don't translate that with format. This will be a string. I also want this one to allow dead code. Okay. We print line we say just like it is. There's no thing saying descriptive rectangle is 5 by 10. Yes, just the same. You can add multiple implementation blocks for this function. You can add a lot of them, a lot. It's not just one, so you can add a lot. Yeah, so today we have talked about methods and structs. So tutorial structs is that instantiating, I don't know how to pronounce this word structs, and then example of using struct, the methods,